What's up, everybody? It's Jeff. I am back, and as promised, we will actually be doing how to build your aim training routine, which is going to be a lot. We're going to be covering a lot. This may get broken up into many different parts, many different release videos. Before we do, be sure to like and subscribe, turn on notifications. You can catch our map guides brought to you by Radiant players. You can catch our agent guides, same story, and then this guy teaching you how to point and click. Better than them, apparently. Anyways, see you on the other side. Okay, so we've talked about how to build these into a playlist to create something cohesive that actually takes us from point A to point B. In this case, it's our warm-up. It takes us from being cold as a hunk of ice to being still probably fairly cold, but prepared, ready to get into those environments, right? So what I would do if I were playing Valorant is I would do that playlist, and then I would go and I would play some team deathmatch. And between all of the different things that I've done, within 30 minutes, low intensity, I've managed to bring myself to a level that will allow me to play a competitive match at an acceptable level, not at my best, but we don't want to get to our best. I want to reach my best within that match. I don't want to reach my best and then play that match, because then I'll burn out quicker. Right? Talked about this last week as well. So that idea of having a playlist that takes us from point A to point B is the same idea that we're going to apply to our aim training. And that is what we're going to talk about in part 2. So part 1, we talked about what is a warm-up and how to build one. And I went through a very basic, like, hey, this is how you should warm up. And it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. It's not all that complicated. If you want a longer warm-up, if you want something more strenuous in just an aim trainer, feel free to type in the comments and I can get something to you. For example, the warm-up that I propagated in the last video would not work for Overwatch. You cannot do that for Overwatch. Now, I did have an 8-minute warm-up routine for Overwatch, and when I really wanted to win my first game, I had a 20-minute warm-up routine for Overwatch, but it did not involve MWAB at all. It was very different. Because you can suit these things to the games that you're trying to play. And what we're trying to play is Valorant. We're talking about Valorant today. So there's a whole section just for Valorant, right? There's all kinds of different stuff. There's all kinds of different ways that you can approach these various scenarios. We want to keep it more generic than that when it comes to training, usually, because we're looking at our skills with the mouse. We're not looking at the game-specific stuff itself. If you really want to train game-specific stuff, like clearing certain corners or shooting certain targets, find a friend. That's the best way to do it, is find a friend, have them actually be that body for you. If you can't, then this is an okay substitute. But anyways, you see, you can save, you can have playlists, and everybody who aim trains has some kind of a playlist. They use some kind of a playlist. They've got some kind of a playlist in place. And the question is, well, how do you build it? Why are things where they are? What is the purpose of that? And I think that in esports, we undercount a lot of the actual preparation work that goes into developing a good training routine. Because when you're thinking about traditional sports, when you're thinking about athletics, what you're looking at every practice is a routine that was carefully planned by a coaching staff at a higher level. At a lower level, like where I was coaching at, it was one guy with a notebook, but everything had a purpose. You built from one thing into the next. You started with hard, difficult, challenging things that you didn't want to do later, so long as they weren't too physically intensive, or you snuck those into the middle. You ended with a reward, something that you enjoyed doing, something that you liked. And you'll find that players who religiously aim train, whether it's warm-up or actual training, they come in at the end of their aim trainer and they go, oh, well, this is my favorite task, so let me add this in, or let me do this because I ended on something that I hate and I don't want to do that. You don't want to take that into your game. You don't want to take that out of the training, you know? So the order in which you build these things matters. It matters mentally, it matters physically. There are things that chain together very specifically, right? I want my large muscle groups to be warmed up. I want my big ideas prepared before I get into the nitty-gritty, before I get into the precision, right? So that's why I would always do a mouse control based tracking drill and then a speed based, like jumbo tile drill, and then I would go into a precision-based thing because I've got all my muscles ready to go, and so I can actually have decent precision. It's the minute fine-tuning that needs work. So this brings me out of my little mini speech into the bigger point of part 2, and that is, what the hell is aim training if it's not a warm-up? And that's a very good question. That is a very good question. Aim training is the identification of weaknesses that are targeted in a specific manner to create strengths, basically. You know, you want to be good at something, you need to look at what you're not good at, and you need to target it, and you need to work on that. For instance, if I'm very bad at crosshair placement, then 2 or 3 tasks in my routine will be on crosshair placement. They're going to be solid, horizontal, tracking-based movement, or it'll be horizontal flicks, or it'll be perfectly flat. There will be no vertical change, right? It'll all be crosshair placement for a solid 6 to 10 minutes. Now, notice I said 2 or 3 different tasks, and I said 6 to 10 minutes. So that's right, 60 seconds is not enough to have trained something. Sure, you're going to get a lot of reps in. But one thing that you can think about, again, going back to traditional athletics, is that, okay, hey, I want to work on my one-touch passing, and I'm going to get 50 passes in a minute passing against this wall. I'll do it for 60 seconds. I'll breathe for 30 seconds. I'll do it for another 60 seconds. I'll breathe for 30 seconds. Because the goal isn't to do 50 or 60 one-touch passes. I'm training. I'm here to get better. The goal is to do 10,000. Maybe not today, but as soon as possible, right? We want to build as many reps as possible, as fast as we can. So when you're looking at this, when you're looking at, oh, well, I'm going to aim train and not warm up, you're not looking at, oh, well, I'm going to play 4 hours of competitive later. What you're looking at is, I'm going to be really good at this one task. I'm going to do this one thing super well. How do I actually do that one thing super well? What you're going to find is that it takes a lot more reps than you want to admit. And if you're doing it properly, like if you're working out, you're pushing yourself past your peak, right? We talked about this before, and I want to go back to this because this is a very important concept. So we talked about this before, and I think it's important to reiterate it, is that we're talking about performance here. It's a matter of time, and then we're going to be kind. We're going to say energy here. Also, I don't want to write performance. So your energy levels, they start low. You're not ready to play. You're not fully engaged. You've got no adrenaline. It's not great, right? So you're going to start in a pretty medium spot, right? And then you're going to get better, and you're going to get better, you're going to get warm, you're going to get warm, and you're going to reach a peak. And you're going to hold that for a little while, and then you're going to start to taper off, right? And most people quit playing competitive right around here. Like, oh man, I suck. And then some people tilt queue and they stop playing here. I'm like, why are you doing this? Another risk is that some people will warm up all the way up until they're good. And so they'll start playing competitive here. And if you start playing here and you stop playing here, then you've played like 3 games. And yeah, you've played 3 really good games. But if you've got more time than that, then you want to use more time than that. Now, I understand this is something I had when I had a very limited amount of time. I only had about 2.5 hours a day to play, and I really wanted to improve a lot. So I would warm up until I was at peak. And then I would play 2 games, and I would win both, and I would be done because my internet would give out. Dark times, very dark times. So if you don't have a lot of time, the longer warm-up makes sense. But if you do have a lot of time, then you want to start playing here because you want the extra game, because you want 4 games, and you want the chance to win 4 games, and you want that better opportunity, right? But at the end of the day, what you want is you want to spend your energy wisely over the time. And when you're aim training, you want to start training here, and you want to stop training here, right? In fact, you probably want to stop training more up here, right? As soon as you start to come off that peak, because that's when it can be, first of all, a little dangerous, but second of all, there's no fun. It's not like the game where you're like, oh my God, my arm is fucking killing me, and I'm super sore, and I'm super tired, and I'm seeing little circles in my sleep, and I'm hallucinating them on the walls, and I really want to keep playing because I'm just having so much fun, It's not like that. When you're playing the actual game that you presumably love to play, you get sucked in even though you feel like trash because your friend just hopped online or automatically queued up the next one, and instead of dodging it, you're like, well, I could play. I'm mostly okay. I'm going to dig deep. I'm going to have this one really good game. And then you have a really good game. you know, you get trapped. You get trapped. But that doesn't happen with aim training. So as soon as you start to taper off, you don't want to stop. You want to do your cool down. We'll talk about cooldowns when we get there. But you do want to catch that taper off because you want to play all the way through that peak, because that's how you actually push the ceiling of your ability. That's how you actually improve what you're capable of. So we still have a warm-up period. We still have to do, let me not erase that. Let me do this in a different color. We still want to do this. We still want to start from baseline, from being cold, from being tired, and we still want to build into that. And I think a lot of things that you can do to that are very similar to what you would do for warming up for a match. For instance, you can go and watch some of the replays of the actual aim training stuff, or you can watch some videos on technique as you kind of get your mind ready for it. Watch one of these videos. My brother actually comes and watches my videos before he does his aim training stuff, so shout out to him. But you do that, and then you jump into your warm-up, which is standard. It's stock standard. It's not designed specifically for this thing or that thing. It's, hey, this is what I like to do to get me warm. And it's short, and it's sweet, and it just gets your muscles going, and it allows you to remind yourself to keep your upper shoulder relaxed. We all have our own issues. It's what gets you into the flow of, okay, I'm about to take on something more challenging, whether that's an actual match or just your aim training. So, in the idea of aim training, this is our warm-up, which means this is our aim training, right? We need to utilize this time. We need a targeted, focused, what are my weaknesses, what do I need to get good at, training routine. And I mentioned previously, hey, you should probably have a day or two where all you do is mouse control. So you should probably look at building a training routine that all you do is mouse control. Now, notice that because of the way that aim training works, you're not going to get as much time as you would playing comp, all right? I don't want to scare anybody off with this. Let's backtrack a little bit. We're talking about, hey, I could play 3 matches in this amount of time, and this is 4 or 5, which is like 3.5 hours in Valorant, optimistically. And you're not going to aim train for that long. You're going to do 10,000 of these things, so you're going to burn yourself out, because over the course of 5 competitive matches, you'll probably shoot at a grand total of 150 targets, as opposed to aim training where you're going to shoot at 150 targets every 90 seconds, give or take. Probably more like 120 seconds. Anyways, so you're in this scenario where you're going to be doing a lot more reps. It's going to take you a lot less time. And a good aim training routine is 20 to 30 minutes in my experience. You can push yourself to actual fatigue in 20 to 30 minutes. And if you want to be really good, you will do that almost every day.
And just like last week's video, guys, it's Chris again. We're going to be cutting this video short as well, just because this is a very long video. And like I said last week, there's so much information to obtain in one video, so we don't want you to miss out on any information. But part 3 next Saturday is going to be basically just an addition to this. It's not going to be a separate part. It's just going to be the rest of the information that was left out in this video. So please make sure not to miss that one. That's going to be very, very inclusive for you. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Peace, peace.